Good morning. We'll call this meeting to order of the Assembly Budget Subcommittee number 2 on Education and Finance. Staff, please call the roll.
McCarty.
Here.
Chavez.
Here.
Kim. Here. O'Donnell and Ting.
Okay. Good morning. We have a packed house today. Today we'll be discussing several items related to the K-12 budget and community colleges related to career technical education, mandates, and adult education. We will have 5 issues, but we will not be voting on anything. I know there's a packed house here and outside, so we're going to try to make sure that we do public comment after each item and not at the very end to try to accommodate people who are here specifically on a few items. Of course, one of the major issues today is the adult education component, which we all very care about much here in California, knowing that it's been in operation for over 150 years, understand the importance of these programs. It's been really cut hard the last few years, of course, and we know that there are millions of Californians who are in need of basic skills and high school equivalency education components to this. We know it's both critical to the economic development California and the workforce, and to make sure families have the opportunity to earn a living wage. And we will give this due consideration and make sure whatever we do works best for California, the state, and the consumers of the adult education program and the people that provide it, of course. And we'll also have a robust discussion on the CTE proposals as well as the Prop 98 mandate issue. So with that, we will start with the first item, which is issue number 1. Adult education. Okay, if we can follow the order outlined in the agenda. Department of Finance first.
Thank you, Chair, members. My name is Keith Nizam with the Department of Finance. Before presenting the administration's adult education block grant proposal, I'll start by providing a brief summary of the state's recent adult education system and efforts to reform it. The state has provided adult education to Californians for over 100 years, providing adults with pre-collegiate education in basic elementary and secondary courses, including high school diploma and GED courses, vocational skills, citizenship, and programs for adults with disabilities. Community college districts primarily receive funding for adult education through their general apportionments based on the number of adults they serve. School districts until 2007-08 were also primarily funded based on the number of adults they served through a restricted funding source. However, as a result of funding cuts beginning in the 2008-09 fiscal year, school districts were authorized to use these restricted funds for other programs as necessary. The local control funding formula enacted in 2013-14 eliminated the majority of school district categorical programs, including the restricted adult education funds. As a part of the implementation of the formula, school districts have been required to continue 2012-13 adult education expenditures through a statutory maintenance of effort requirement. That requirement ends in 2015-16. While this instruction has primarily been provided by school districts and community colleges, other entities such as libraries, workforce development agencies, social services agencies, correctional institutions, and others also serve a role in meeting the state's adult education needs. All of these entities have often operated independently and may not have had an incentive to align their programs to better meet the needs of students and employers. To address concerns of a fragmented and ineffective adult education program, legislation enacted with the 2013-14 budget appropriated $25 million for school districts and community colleges to form a regional consortia to plan for a new collaborative adult education program to better meet the needs of adults in California. Specifically, consortia were asked to identify current capacity, resources, and needs to create a regional adult education program that targets resources more effectively, integrates efforts across providers, creates articulation and pathways to the workforce or other post-secondary education. This 1.5-year planning effort was initiated with the expectation for a new ongoing funding mechanism for adult education beginning in 2015-16. So to that end, as a part of the administration's overall package of workforce development proposals, the reauthorization of the Federal Workforce Investment and Opportunities Act, and the work set forth by AB 86 over the past year and a half to address the state's fragmented adult education system, the governor's budget includes $500 million to establish the adult education block grant program. This proposal is intended to foster coordination and collaboration amongst the state's various adult education providers, recognizing varying programmatic expertise, varying resources, and varying regional need for adult education throughout the state. Consortium members consisting of school districts, county offices of education, and community college districts, in collaboration with other education providers within the 70 consortia regions established in AB 86, would be tasked with developing plans and annual updates to those plans to address regional adult education needs. Plans would need to consider existing regional providers and resources available to those providers, actions that can be taken to improve the effectiveness of services provided, and integration of services to improve transition to the workforce or other post-secondary instruction. In addition, to provide a collaborative framework for regional funding decisions that incorporates the expertise of a variety of regional adult education and workforce development entities, consortium members would be required to establish allocation boards to determine funding distributions to school districts, county office of education, and community colleges, consistent with the consortial plans and regional need. Allocation board membership would consist of 7 members, representing a member school district or county office of education, a member community college district, another adult education provider, a local workforce investment board, a county social services employment services office, county probation department, and a member of the public. Allocation boards would need to consider consortial plans and regional unmet need in determining funding allocations to consortium member school districts, county office of education, community college districts. In 2015-16, in recognition of the need to provide stability as we transition to this new program, we propose that school districts and county office of education that have had adult education programs in 2012-13 continue to receive that maintenance of effort amount directly from the block grant. Any remaining funding in 2015-16 would be distributed to consortia by the Chancellor of the California Community Colleges and the Superintendent of Public Instruction based on regional need, and then distributed by consortia allocation boards. Beginning in 2016-17, the Chancellor and Superintendent would allocate all funds to consortia based on 3 criteria: the amount of funds received in the prior year, the need for adult education in the region, and the effectiveness of providers in meeting those needs. Consortia would then distribute funds to school district, county office of education, and community college districts pursuant to allocation board schedules. The Chancellor and Superintendent would be tasked with establishing an overall governance and accountability structure, as well as providing an annual report that summarizes consortia plans and services, the effectiveness of consortia in addressing regional need, and any findings and recommendations they may have to improve adult education. In developing this proposal, we worked to be responsive to the comments, concerns, and feedback we heard from those interested in adult education. We have tried to address much of the feedback we received, including supporting stability for existing providers, providing flexibility at the state and local level, clarifying roles within the consortia, and continuing to foster collaboration amongst providers to improve student outcomes. We understand that there are some ongoing concerns, and we intend to continue to listen and respond as we move through this process, recognizing the goals and the framework of the governor's proposal. This concludes my overview, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. LAO?
Good morning. Natasha Collins, Legislative Analyst's Office. The Sergeant has distributed a handout that I'll be speaking from. The Department of Finance gave a great background on adult education in the state. So on page 1, we provide what the governor's proposal is. They also explain that well. So I'm just going to move to page 2 to point something out about the governor's proposal that the committee may want to be aware of, which is a decision-making triad that I think there was some interest in, that authorizes the superintendent of public instruction, the community college chancellor, and the executive director of the State Board of Education in making a number of decisions pertaining to the adult education block grant. Those are outlined on page 2 there. The various responsibilities include approving consortium's governance structures, as well as certifying the maintenance of effort that you heard about will be in year 1 of this proposal, and apportioning funds to consortia at the state level. So just wanted to make you aware of that. I'll move to our assessment of the governor's proposal on page 3. The legislature has made clear that coordination of adult education is one of its primary goals moving forward, and we think that the governor's proposal works towards this goal in various ways. It involves a broad group of adult education stakeholders and providers through the consortium effort, This could foster better communication and coordination across regions and across the state in providing adult education. We also note that it provides flexibility for locals to meet their local needs using funds in ways that best serve them. However, while the proposal has merit, we also have a few major concerns that we start to outline on page 4. First, we'd note that the proposal does not include all adult education spending that the state receives. This includes a share of community college apportionments, as well as various federal funding sources and some categorical programs, which also are used towards similar goals that adult education has. Second, we'd note that the state allocation lacks significant details. So the 3 elements upon which funding will be provided, need, performance, and prior year funding, will be determined by the triad that I described earlier, the state board, executive director, the chancellor's office, and the superintendent of public instruction. But there's not guidance in the governor's proposal on how we would define need and what performance really means. Next, we have some concerns with the local allocation boards. It's unclear what the ties to the state would be on these allocation boards because there's not clear accountability or formal authority for the members of the allocation boards, which are members of communities within consortia. Furthermore, it's unclear whether the consortia allocation committees, the consortia themselves, or providers would be held responsible for the flow of state dollars. On the next page, we note that there's a lack of clear goals and accountability set forth in the proposal. It's unclear how many individuals the new program would serve and how much money would go to expand services or to improve existing services. That's something that the legislature may want to make more clear. Furthermore, there's no specific performance goals set forth or specific data reporting requirements associated with performance goals. So if the legislature and state would like to hold providers accountable, it may want to set forth some of these. Lastly, the proposed allocation of the block grant, one of the elements is based on prior need. We see no justification for tying future funding increases to prior need. Just because funding has been historically allocated in a certain way doesn't mean that we should perpetuate that moving forward. But I'll speak more on that on our recommendations pertaining to the maintenance of effort. Page 6 provides our recommendations. We recommend that the legislature approve the adult education block grant funding proposal, but make several modifications surrounding it. First, we recommend incorporating or better coordinating other adult education funding into the block grant. So, for example, you could allocate federal adult education funding through consortia, or you could shift some of the community college non-credit adult education funding to the block grant or coordinate it in some other way. We recommend that you approve the one-time funding in 15-16 for existing providers, but gradually shift the allocation method away from prior year funding and more towards performance and need. Third, we recommend that you require the CDE and the Chancellor's Office to provide you with the state allocation plan by spring 2015 so you can weigh in on how those determinations are being made. Next, we recommend that you clarify how funding within a consortia will be allocated within the allocation boards. We recommend that you require participating entities to organize more formally. Alternatively, you could view the allocation board less as one that distributes funds directly, but more in an advisory capacity. Another option would be that you could require the board to certify consortia plans to make sure that they're aligned with other regional plans, such as the Workforce Opportunity and Innovation Act plans that are due every 4 years for regions throughout the state. We also recommend that you set clear performance targets and clear reporting requirements in order to measure whether consortia are meeting goals for their communities in adult education. Lastly, to bring closure to some longstanding policy discussions regarding adult education consistency across policy areas, we recommend that you set deadlines for the Department of Education and the community colleges to work with the California Workforce Investment Board to approve assessments that both segments, community colleges and K-12 adult schools would use, to start using a common student identifier so we can track progress across segments, and also to require providers to start reporting to Essential Data Repository on student inputs and outcomes. We would recommend that you set a specific deadline, perhaps July 1st, 2016, and make these progress towards these goals and implementation of them contingent on funding moving forward. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Not yet. Thank you. Department of Education.
Good morning. Monique Ramos on behalf of State Superintendent of Public Instruction Tom Torlakson. The superintendent appreciates the governor's proposal for $500 million for adult education, and he believes that this goes a long way to rebuilding California's adult education programs. If the governor's budget is adopted, he does support providing school districts with the MOE in year one in order to create a smoother transition to the new adult education plan. The superintendent does have substantial concerns with the newly proposed allocation boards in order to that will determine funding for adult ed and community college districts. I'm sorry, K-12 and community college districts. He does support collaboration amongst the bodies, but it seems odd that all these bodies would be actually allocating money that only goes to 2 members of the board. The superintendent shares the concerns highlighted in the committee write-up about eliminating the adult ed in correction facilities program. We believe this is a unique program that has significant policy benefits and should remain a standalone program. The superintendent does believe that the annual update required of consortiums is important, but thinks that there should be some clarification so that it's more of an annual update versus a new plan. Additionally, the superintendent supports the LAO's recommendation that annual expenditure reports continue to be reported up in order for the state to fulfill its federal maintenance of effort match. Finally, the Department of Education has some concerns with the State Board of Education's role, as it seems unnecessary. This is not a policy area that the State Board of Education has had oversight in before, but the superintendent is happy to provide voluntary updates to the State Board of Education on adult education. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lastly, the Community College Chancellor's Office.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members. I'm Dan Troy. I'm the Vice Chancellor for Fiscal Policy for the California Community College Chancellor's Office. We'd like to start off by saying that we're greatly appreciative of the Governor's proposal in the January budget to address what is a great need in our state to educate our adult learners. We believe that this is a very key goal of the state to address poverty where it exists, and by collaboration with K-12 and community college education providers, we think education provides the best path out of poverty for those adult learners. So we do applaud the Governor's focus and resources targeted toward this area. We are supportive of an adult education approach going forward that encourages collaboration among K-12 districts and community colleges. Traditionally, K-12 agencies have been very good at providing services such as ESL, GEDs. Community colleges have been a little bit more focused on workforce. If we can get those agencies working together and create that pipeline and get adult learners into jobs, we think that's the way to address poverty in the state. So that collaboration amongst the agencies is very key. And thanks to the AB 86 process, I think we've got that process underway. I think our major priority going forward should be to address the need where it exists. One of the key problems with the old formula was that it was frozen in time in the early 80s. So where new need developed in various regions, the formula was not flexible enough to address that need. So going forward, I think it's very important that we meet the need where it exists. We also believe that the state should, over time, identify what the total need is and seek to adequately resource it. $500 million is a good start. It is certainly less than what the state had once been providing. I think we should endeavor to figure out what the right number is for that, and seek to build out to that level of resources. We also believe that the consortia should have adequate standing through governance structure, decision-making power, et cetera, to assess and address the needs of the region. We strongly support local control. We think that's a real strength of the governor's proposal. But I think whatever comes out of this process, the local control will be undermined if those consortia is not empowered to make those key decisions at the local level. Lastly, because it's probably on your mind, I'd suggest that we do take a good look at the allocation boards set up, designed in the statute. We do think it's a good idea to have some of these non-98 entities, particularly the WIBs, involved in the process. Perhaps it would be better used to incorporate them in an advisory capacity. That might be a stronger way forward. So other than that, we look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go on to our next panel, we'll open it up here for comments or questions from committee members. None this time? Okay, I'll have a couple out of the gates because we won't have room for all of you up here with the next panel. I guess the first question is, certainly we know that the overall facts are that there's a great need for adult ed in California. We estimate there's 5,000 people in our state at least that could benefit from these services, and we know that 800,000 people lost slots in these in the last few years, and the good news is there's money on the table to provide something consistently going forward, and the question is the devil in the details how we're going to flesh it out, which I know we have a lot of people out in the audience want to opine on that. And so I guess the first question I want to ask Department of Finance is that this is kind of a moving process, and my understanding is going to be more details released in the near future. What you've heard so far from the AB 86 report and from the community stakeholders, including people here today, do you have any opinions as far as adjustments that you think you would be proposing to focus on this issue?
So at this point in time, I mean, we have to continue to support the governor's budget. We will certainly continue to engage with stakeholders, including the chancellor's office, the superintendent of public instruction, and the legislature, on working to take their feedback into consideration as we work on the May revision. But yeah, at this point, we don't have specific comments. Okay.
Specifically with the allocation boards and some of the issues that we've heard as far as accountability and fairness and oversight, do you think some of these issues will be taken into consideration when you come back with your May revision, or you think you'll stay the course as far as the proposal you have so far?
No, absolutely. We'll certainly take all those concerns into consideration as we make our proposal at May revision.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
I'll withhold comments until we get towards the end. I guess now we'll go to the next panel. Thank you very much. Okay, we now bring up the Campbell Union High School District, Bob Harper and Donna Burns from Mount San Antonio College. Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, first, Mr. Harper.
Chairman McCarty, members of the Assembly, thank you for giving me this opportunity to hug Donna Burns and renew our partnership. We were both on the AB 86 work group, and I think that was an example of how the two systems really can collaborate and need to continue. First and foremost, of course, thank the governor and the legislature for acknowledging the importance of adult education and giving $500 million for this critical service to adult learners in California. My own school, Campbell Adult and Community Education, is in San Jose. Really, our 15 sites are in San Jose, California. My district has had adult education since World War I. This past week, they passed a resolution to be shared with you, supporting adult education in the state, in the district, and absolutely asking for funding through existing funding structures and a calculation of MOE quickly. I can report to you that what we've done in adult education, even before AB 86, was to think about adults as fully formed human beings with histories, capacities on their own. I think that's the unique quality of adult schools that they bring to the educational system and adult education. Adults come in, they have histories, capacity, so we measure where they are in direct instruction to where they are, rather than having a standard and measuring how deficient they are to that standard. It's a very different culture mindset idea about how to design instruction for the adults. I believe it's effective can be much, much more effective. Our own school, we're infusing all of our curriculum with the college and career readiness national standards. They're very clear national standards aligned to the Common Core that can measure progress to being ready for work or post-secondary education college. Our school also was involved in the Allies project before AB 86 that worked with adult learners, English learners specifically in this project in the region to get them from community-based organizations through adult schools into community college. The central goal has been to have them make a plan, every single student have a plan, have them figure out what's the next best choice for them and get to the community college. That was before AB 86. So we were ready for the consortium process. I think in my consortium in San Jose, we are unique. We have 2 community college districts, 4 colleges, and 5 adult schools, 5 school districts, and we're working together well. We've built good partnerships with our community college. I can report to you that the consortium plan has elements that make no wrong door possible for all the adults who come to services in the region. So no matter where they are, they have counseling, supports, curriculum, instruction that meet them where they are, and develop a plan of thinking about how they move forward. So we're very enthusiastic about the plan we have created. My district and I can report to you that the physical agent for that consortium is a solution looking for a problem. There's no need to have a physical agent, a single physical agent in that consortium. In fact, there are ways to think about it. There's just one more layer of unnecessary bureaucracy that can get in the way of the good work. That physical agent can get in the way of exactly the work that needs to happen. It's really hard to have 2 things happening, to have local control and local decision making, whether it's Japanese quality circles or Jesuit subsidiarity. I mean, it's a good idea to have people who are implementing things be part of the decision making process about how to do those things. That we all agree upon. And on the other hand, I mean, you want certain things to happen around the state. You want to not lose certain objectives, elements. I mean, preparation for the workforce. I mean, accountability, progress, efficiency of using resources. There are all kinds of things you want to assure have happen. The allocation board, we really appreciate the intent, Department of Finance, behind that, to really sort of make sure that certain things happen, that certain things don't get lost. Also, large educational bureaucracies who are hungry for money often will have an opportunity to bowl each over just to get certain things done. You want some sort of guidelines to make sure the right decisions are made, the right things are happening. So the motivation behind the allocation board is absolutely welcomed and I think necessary. But having this other entity, again, it's almost like another bureaucracy, accountable to whom? Just doesn't seem to work. I think there are ways, and you've seen proposals, or you will see proposals, to have sort of what we call a regional accountability, an RCAP. We know that this idea of having local control and still have certain things happen is known by the K-12 districts. The LCAP process is exactly that, right? So that process is known, that you in your wisdom invented that process, could be applied to this unique situation of consortium. If there is an RCAP with agreed upon outcomes like accountability, common measures, maintenance of effort over time, so you have the ability to do multi-year planning, all very similar to elements in the LCAP now, right? But applied to this regional consortium, I think that's possible. And I know I've got 5 minutes, and you'll pull the hook on me if I don't. The K-12 system offers something unique. Its capacity needs to be protected and built upon, all right? And a new reality that we find ourselves must focus laser-like on the adults who are marginalized by language, by socioeconomic status, by cultural competency. So a program has to exist that knows who they are, and that understands. Amen? Can I get an amen? Yes. that understands that this system needs to serve them and connect to other things. That's what I think K-12 offers, this partnership. And the partnership is great. The state agencies need to mirror this collaboration that they expect at the local level. My expectation is the partnership between the CDE and the Chancellor's Office grows and continues as this goes forward. And I know locally great things can happen because there are people who work in the community colleges that believe, like I do, like Donna,